drink, optimistic, very sexual. As a matter of fact, if you're taking something like a Prozac Paxil, something that drives up serotonin, that drives down dopamine. And so if you take some drugs, you probably, I don't know how many people in the room take Ritalin just for fun, but long and short is that drives up, I've never taken it myself, but anyway, it drives up dopamine. Cocaine drives up dopamine, etc. But anyway, these trigger sexuality. So those people who are expressive of dopamine tend to be quite sexual, curious, they got a lot of interests, creative. It's interesting, I saw some drawings by a person who was taking L-Dopa because of Parkinson's disease. And before she was taking the L-Dopa, she was drawing dogs, and they looked like stick figure dogs. And then after starting the L-Dopa, they began to look like Rembrandt dogs. I've also seen people's poetry change from being very prosaic to being quite enchanting. This is associated with creativity. Also flexibility. Of course, there's a bad side of these people. They're not all restless and reckless and addictive and glib and opportunistic, but these are characteristics that they might be prone to. I did a study of 178,000 people to see what words these people use, and the top 10 words used by people, by the explorer type, the top word was adventure. Venture, energy, new, fun, travel, passion, active, outgoing, all energy, all motion, all curiosity types of words. I think Obama is largely an explorer, very daring man, risk-taking, to go where he went from where he came. When he talked about change, we somehow felt that he meant it. It's part of his DNA, I would add. Highly energetic, active, curious. If you've read either of his autobiographies, he's an extremely curious guy. Mentally flexible, very liberal, extremely optimistic. There's this newspaper in New York, it's called The Onion. I don't even know if it's national, but there was one line on it right after he won the election, and it said, "Black man given worst job in the world." And he was optimistic anyway. He's also comfortable in his skin. There's some nice, interesting data on the dopamine system, that people who are high in dopamine move in a sort of in a casual, comfortable, they're comfortable in their skin. They also are very facially expressive. And you watch him and Bush after the inauguration, if you did, walking down the stairs, and he's walking with he's got a dopamine style to him that Bush did not have. We're not talking about intelligence, we're not talking about your interests, we're talking about your temperament. And another person, a wildly different kind of person, I think, is Angelina Jolie. Has a tattoo of a window tattooed onto her. Freedom, gotta go, gotta have adventure, I'm out of here. Energy, curiosity, and highly unconventional. Anybody who wears a vial of blood around their neck at their wedding is not your conventional type. I think these are two in a vast range of people. I've gotten very interested in American history, actually, because there's certain times, certain people who've been the explorer type have made an enormous difference in how this country has gone. The builder, high serotonin, conventional. They observe social norms. They want to observe social norms. Cautious, but not fearful. They're not scared, but cautious. Calm, social. They've got more close friends on various tests of that. They're managerial. They're cooperative. They're the pillars of society. They're good at managing people. They're highly social. Sustained attention. They can keep doing something over and over. And there's what's called sustained attention. There's different types of attention. The explorer gets bored. If it's not something that they're really interested in, they're out of there. Whereas the builder can keep doing it over and over again. They're loyal. orderly, conscientious. They respect authority, and they're numerically creative. They're good with numbers. I think a great many accountants, if I could get some samples of their DNA, would be expressive of the serotonin system. The downside is that they're stubborn. They got one way of doing things, and that's the way it ought to be done. They're fine when you agree with them, but not so well when you're not. Moralistic, controlling, etc. The top 10 words that the builder uses: family, the top word; honesty, caring, morals, respect. They got to be respected. They want respect. The explorer wants adventure. They want respect. Loyal, trusting, values. Trust. 2 of the top 10 words are associated with trust. They want trust. They want respect. They want morals. I think a good example is Gordon Brown. I think a really good American example is George Washington. I think he was a builder at just the right time in American history. Builders tend to be very modest. You know, he didn't want to be king. He set this government onto an entirely new path because of his builder modesty and his rationality. Anyway, Gordon Brown, Prime Minister of United Kingdom, has many of the characteristics of the builder. Most interesting to me is the numeric creativity. He was very good as the Chancellor of the Exchequer. He was, for quite a while, the right guy in the right job. I think Colin Powell was the right guy in the wrong job at the wrong time. He never wanted to go into Iraq. When Daddy Bush got into trouble there, he really advised against going into Iraq. When Baby Bush came along, before he made a speech at the United Nations, about 25% of Americans wanted to go into Iraq. After he made that speech, something like over 75% wanted to go into Iraq. And I think that he had been fooled into thinking there were weapons of mass destruction, but I think he was also being loyal. He was being loyal to the commander-in-chief. And here, I think, was a wonderful man at the wrong place in history, and that his biology, in some ways, infected his judgment. I think Tiger Woods is also a builder. What is golf but patience? I mean, and social, and networking. And as he says, family comes first. The director, those expressive of testosterone, can be women as well as men. There's more men in this category than women, but there's certainly high testosterone women. Analytical, logical, direct, decisive, tough-minded. They tell you like it is. Very good at what scientists call rule-based systems. They're good at math, engineering, computers, mechanics. Focus. They have a very narrow focus, but it's a very powerful focus. I've got a friend at Rockefeller University. He's written something like 17 books on hormones, but in his spare time he reads mystery stories. He's not a broad focus, but he's a deep and narrow focus. They're emotionally contained. You know, I made a speech at Davos at the World Economic Forum last year, and these are all pinstripe businessmen, and they're moving only their mouth. They're talking just like this. They're not moving the rest of their face. They're not emotionally expressive people, the high dopamine type. They're moving their fingers, of course, on their BlackBerries, and also just their lips. Self-disciplined. They're very good at musical understanding. I think Beethoven was very much of the director type, and certainly Einstein, because in many respects, I mean, when I listen to music, I'm just swinging to the beat, but I'm very much the explorer type. They're seeing the structure of the music, which is in the testosterone system. So the downside, they've got what they call mind blindness. They're poor at judging what other people are thinking, less empathetic, more aloof, uncompromising, aggressive, poorer people skills. The top word that they use is intelligence. And then we got debate, geek, nerd, ambition, driven, politics, challenge, and real. And so next time you're out in the bar or someplace talking to people, listen to the words they're using. They are expressive, actually, probably of their biology. I think a perfect example is John McCain. He was proud of being tough-minded. He used the word fight 43 times in his acceptance speech. He was proud of saying, I'm not Mr. Congeniality. He's a fighter pilot. That is spatial relations, skills. Very narrow focus. As Obama said of him, he sees things through a single lens, which he did. But he also has many of the facial characteristics of high testosterone. The heavy jaw is associated with testosterone. The heavy brow ridges and the high forehead are all expressions of high testosterone. So what I did when I did this questionnaire is I have to prove that I'm studying what I say I'm studying. So if you were to go on chemistry.com, there's a lot of questions around my questionnaire which are designed to find out whether, if you're a particular type, whether you really are expressive of that chemical system. So there's work that's been done since the 1930s. The most recent book is called The Second to Fourth Digit Ratio by a guy called John Manning. And basically, if you were to look at your right hand, if you're a man, and left hand, if you're a woman, palm up, if your fourth finger is longer than your second finger, you probably had more testosterone priming in the womb, patterning not only the brain, but your hand. If you have a longer pointing finger than ring finger, or they're the same length, you had more estrogen in the womb, and your brain is probably more patterned as the estrogen type. And so one glorious morning, I picked up my newspaper, and here we have some confirmation. Hillary Clinton, I think, is very much the testosterone type also, analytical, decisive, straightforward. It was very interesting recently when she went to China. She said a lot of things said some things that people said, well, is she just new at the job or is she just blunt? And I looked and I said, she's blunt. She's good at whatever she does, but she's high testosterone type. The fourth is the negotiator, estrogen and oxytocin. These people see the big picture. Highly imaginative, very fine linguistic skills. There's very good data on that. Very good social skills. Theory of mind. They're good at getting into your head and understanding what you're thinking. They're trusting, nurturing, altruistic, empathetic, emotionally expressive, agreeable, egalitarian, idealistic. The downside is they're indecisive. They live in a world of it depends. Well, it depends. I don't know. It depends. It just depends. And then when I watch them taking my questionnaire, even watching them take the questionnaire, they can't decide on what they're doing. And they say, well, I don't know what I am. And I look at them and I say, I know what you are because you're in the world of it depends. They're gullible because they're so trusting. They can be effusive because they're emotionally expressive. They can be placating because they're so agreeable, etc. There's a downside to all of us. The top word that they use is passionate, real, heart, kind, sensitive, read. These are the readers of the world, the high estrogen type. Sweet, learning, random. They like the word random. The other types, maybe they explore a bit, but the other types no. And empathetic. And I think a good example is Bill Clinton. As he said in his book, his autobiography, it's important to have a synthesizing mind. He definitely did. He saw a lot of angles to everything. Emotionally expressive. I don't know if you watched him at the Democratic Convention, but he cried all the way through Hillary's speech. He's well known around the world for, he can't stop talking. The whole world knows that. His book was 963 pages long. He's a wordy guy. Intuitive, emotionally expressive, of course, and well known for saying, I feel your pain, which he probably does. So another good example, I think, is Oprah. Big reader, really fine people skills, verbal skills, very intuitive. I read a little article about her in one of the women's magazines recently in which she said, the only times in my life that I've made the wrong decision is when I didn't follow my intuition. And I said, yeah, that's got to be a negotiator. I think Charles Darwin was also a negotiator. If there's a man who thought holistically, it is Charles Darwin, imaginative, wrote over 17 books, very intuitive, very agreeable. He hated to hurt people's feelings and compassionate. We're all a combination of all of them, of course, but we do have personalities. I think I am, for example, probably largely the explorer and the negotiator. He's a combination of those two, I think, more than others. So then what I did is when you take the questionnaire, I see to what degree you express all four of these basic chemical systems. And this is a breakdown of 1.2 million people. You can see there's many more men who are directors and many more women that are negotiators. That's good. It means that I'm studying what I think I'm studying. Same amount of, actually the same amount of explorers, men and women. Men and women often explore differently. Young men want to jump off mountains and drive cars fast, but by middle age it's women that are dragging the men to the theater and to the opera. And there's different ways to be an explorer. It's not just sexually or taking drugs. It's many ways to be